Here we are, this is the Sportive Survival Guide Part 3. Here we're actually going to take a quick look at a little bit of the essentials for dressing for success, and also take a look at the nutrition as well, so breakfast and fueling on the bike. You can have all the right kit, but if you haven't got your eating properly organised and you haven't got enough fuel in the tank, it's like trying to go out and ride 150 or 200 kilometres with no petrol in the tank, and you're going to come up short. So really what I always do is, just for my own peace of mind, is really look and try and visualise my ride ahead, and try and look at the kit which I've got, which I need to get me through that ride in the best possible condition, and so that I actually enjoy the ride as best I can. So for tomorrow's event, we're recceing the l'Étape du Tour stage, pole to HAUTACAM. We know, we've looked at the forecast, it's going to be pretty cold tomorrow, so I've got a lot of thermal gear here. I'm going to go with a long sleeve thermal wind stopper top. What I always do on any sort of reconnaissance ride is try and pack everything well in advance. So you know, I've got nutrition in the back pocket here, I've got the bars which I'm going to be looking at consuming. Another nice little tip is to actually open up the bar beforehand, especially if you're in an event such as a l'Étape du Tour or another Sportive. Open up the bars beforehand, because you know it can sound like a really simple thing to open up an energy bar when you're actually on the bike, but the amount of times I've struggled because you know the wrapping's quite tight, or your hands are sticky or cold. So just by opening up the wrapper, you can actually make sure that you can open that bar easier. It's going to cause you a lot less hassle when you're on the bike. So really I run through it in just a sort of systematic order, and I just try and, as I say, visualise what I'm going to be doing on the bike, the conditions I'm going to hopefully be riding in, make sure that the kit kind of matches what I'm going to be looking at achieving. So we've got thermal long sleeve, a long sleeve base layer. Just lay out the shorts, the tights which I'll be wearing. Got my pulse watch which I normally wear to keep my body in check and make sure I'm working at a level which I'm comfortable with. It's no point going out and racing 200 kilometers with a pulse of 180 if you're not used to doing that. So I find that as a nice essential tool for me, just to make sure that yeah, my body's doing what it should be doing. Then importantly, you know, safety with the cycle helmet. You know, very, very lightweight now. They've been sort of mandatory for the professionals to use for the last couple of years, and also for the amateurs. You know, there's not really any excuse now. It is actually a mandatory item for any sportive when you're on that type of event. So a lightweight cycle helmet with some good ventilation. Really don't from the helmets which we've had in the past, there isn't really much of a compromise now, and at the end of the day it's your safety, and you need it to actually take part in the event. So I lay this kit out. We've got my gloves, I've got a second pair of gloves, also a beanie, essential for sort of riding downhill, especially tomorrow because it's likely to be around sort of 0 degrees at the top of the mountains. So as soon as you start sort of coming off the top of the mountain, you hit the downhill, you have a lot of wind chill there. So we've got, again, it's a lot of wind stopper stuff, wind stopper gloves, a beanie. Take a little bit of money with me as well, just in case things go wrong. It's also a good tip for when you're actually out on the event. You're never quite sure if you are going to have problems. Obviously we hope that you're not going to have any problems, but sometimes these things happen where you need to dive into a cafe or use a mobile phone, and it's always nice if you can return the favour if someone helps you out. So a little bit of money always goes in the back pocket. Eyewear as well. It's not just about fashion, it is also about functionality as well. You can get yourself some nice eyewear which, if it's very, very sunny, obviously takes the glare off the road and can take the sun out your eyes, but also when you're descending, you never know what's going to flick up. You may have flies which go in your eye and can be very uncomfortable, or something flicking up off the road from another rider's wheel. So eyewear, keep your eyes protected as far as possible. And then a lightweight packable shell, also waterproof, is very important because the conditions in the mountains are very, very changeable. So it can look like it's going to be a great summer's day when you're in the valley and you're starting off, but a couple of times, yeah, you can be caught out, and you do learn from your mistakes when suddenly you're at the top of a mountain and the clouds have rolled in, you're shrouded in mist, and suddenly the temperature's really dropped and it starts to rain, and you're thinking what turned out to be a nice summer's ride has suddenly turned into a winter's survival episode. So all of this kit is really the essentials for the ride which we're looking at achieving tomorrow. All the way through, from head through to footwear. We've got the you know, the shoes already prepped up. I've got some toe covers on, neoprene, keep the toes warm, and again some windstopper over boots. Got the bottles, everything laid out just in a nice format. I'm more of the type of person which I can only really go to bed and sleep well before an event, because you know, you do get nervous from doing these sort of events. But I sleep a lot better if I know everything's sorted, because it's going to be a very early start in the morning. Typically you're going to be on the bike and actually leaving Depart Village at 7 o'clock. So that means the nutrition side of things is very important, to actually fuel up and get the body prepared in advance for the day's riding. You really need to be eating breakfast about 4 or 4:30 in the morning, when it's a little bit unsociable. So I have my sort of food which I will bring, and I'm used to sort of eating before a race, and I know it works for me, and I know that I'm going to be able to digest it, and I'm going to be comfortable. And you know, not a lot of hotels are potentially going to want to cater for a cyclist at 4 o'clock in the morning, when they generally run a breakfast service from 7 o'clock onwards. But if it's a l'étape du Tour or a big sportive, sometimes the hotels or the guest houses will cater for cyclists, but don't make that assumption. I think it's always important just to try and be more self-sufficient. And that's why I have my sort of breakfast pre-prepared. Really the only thing I've got to do is eat the breakfast, still staying nice and relaxed, make your way over to the start. I've also got a handy light here, which is nice and lightweight actually, but again, it's not an essential which you might actually carry with you on the ride. But at 4 o'clock in the morning, when it's totally pitch black, I think it's going to come in certainly very, very handy when you're trying to negotiate the stairs in the hallway and not wake up everyone else in the hotel, and then make your way out to the car park and get your bikes loaded up. As I say, at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, you can't really afford to wait for the sun to rise, so just go through piece by piece. Okay, in the morning, boom, this is what I need to do. I've got my clothing, I've got my food sorted. Eliminate all the unknowns and the things which are out of your control, and make them part of the routine as well as the ride. I mean, a lot of people will spend the time just focusing on the ride itself, but you can certainly save a lot of time and make it a lot more enjoyable by arranging all of this stuff, so you don't have to worry about it. So you know, it's just an insight into how I personally prepare for a sportive. No real rights and wrongs to the preparation side of things, but just from a comfort factor, I go to bed at night and I think I've prepared well for the actual event, and the training's been done for it. So you know, I like to just make sure that I've got everything sort of set out in front of me, and I can go to bed and I can see, you know, how it's going to work in the morning when the alarm goes off at 4, how I'm really going to be preparing myself properly for the day ahead. Bottom line, it's going to make my day a lot more enjoyable, and hopefully I'm not going to have any stories at the end and excuses. I can just get on with it and say, yeah, I prepared properly, the training's done, everything's done in advance, go to bed, sleep well, get up feeling fresh, get on the bike and have a great day's riding.